Welcome to the ClearPath ePortal Developer Capabilities demonstration. This video is part of a series of videos that explain the steps to develop different types of data source and presentation projects in ePortal Developer for modernizing ClearPath applications. This demonstration will show you how to import DPS working storage data definitions using Import DPS Form Library to modernize TIP applications that use DPS forms. Note that to modernize a TIP application that uses DPS forms, you must generate a connector working storage data definition, an FLDP source file for each DPS form using the FLMU utility. A connector file contains details of data description for a DPS form. An FLDP source file contains formatting information for a DPS form. For example, page layout and field attributes. For this demonstration, the DPS working storage data definitions and FLDP source files for the DPS bank application are already created and copied to the computer where the ClearPath ePortal developer is running. To get started, you must create an OS 2200 TIP data source project. For this demonstration, a TIP data source project is already created. Right-click the project and then click Import DPS Form Library. The OS 2200 TIP configuration dialog box appears. In this dialog box, specify the information to connect to the host application. For this demonstration, the host application name is DPS Bank. Let's enter the host name as rs20.rsvl.unisys.com and the port number as 2407 for the DPS Bank application. The OS 2200 character set specifies the character set used for the data that is transferred to and from the TIP COBOL application. Leave it to the default value US ASCII. Click OK. The DPS Import Form Library dialog box appears. Click Browse and select the folder that contains the DPS working storage data definitions and FLDP source files for the DPS Bank application. Click OK. The source encoding drop-down list specifies the character encoding that is used by the connector and FLDP files. Leave it to the default value US ASCII. Notice that all the DPS forms selected from the DPS Bank folder appear in the table. The Name column specifies the name of the DPS form. The State column indicates the status of the DPS form. The state can be new, imported, or error. The New state indicates that the DPS form is being imported for the first time to the data source project. The Imported state indicates that the DPS form was already imported earlier to the data source project. If you continue to import such forms, they will overwrite the existing server message. If any error occurs during the import process, the form stage changes to error. The TIP transaction code column allows you to enter the transaction code that OS 2200 operating system uses to identify the transaction program. The configuration column provides a link to change the default direction and the discriminator value of the server message. Click on the Change link for the screen 101. The Screen 101 configuration dialog box appears. The server message direction indicates whether the data is sent to or received from the OS 2200 server. Its default value is both input and output. The Screen 101 is an output-only DPS form. So let's select Output Received from OS 2200 server. The next list box displays all the fields of the DPS form. You can select one or more fields that uniquely identify the DPS form. After selecting them, you can click Select and they will be added in selected fields. Note that by default the fields number and check number in the record header are selected for discriminator fields. If you want to modify a data identifier, select the field and click Modify. Note that if the field has an initial value set with a COBOL value clause, then you cannot modify it. If you want to remove a field from the selected discriminator list, select the field and click Remove. Now, let's leave it to the default selected discriminator fields and click OK. Similarly, the server message direction is changed to Output received from OS 2200 server for the screens 103, 105 and 106 as they are output-only DPS forms. A hyphen here indicates that these are output-only DPS forms and the tip transaction code is not required for them. Now, select the checkbox in the Name column header to select all the DPS forms and then click Import. Notice that during the import process, the status of each form changes to Imported in this dialog box as well as in the output window after it is successfully imported. If required, you can pause the import process and click Continue to resume the process. After all the DPS forms are imported, click Close to exit the dialog box. Notice that the server and client messages are created for each DPS form based on the connector and FLDP files. Now, let's perform an orchestration to define the message flow between the ClearPath server application and presentation application. Open the orchestration window. Drag and drop the server message user-defined input on the start node of the on-client session start event. This server message provides user-defined input to the OS 2200 server and initiates the tip application that uses DPS forms. Now, double-click the user-defined input server message to specify the transaction code that invokes the tip application. In the Assign Data for Message Server User-Defined Input dialog box, for the TipTran code field, select Literal in the Assign From list and enter DPS Bank for data value. Click OK. The ePortal runtime passes DPS Bank to the ClearPath server to initiate the application, which results in a server message for screen 100 being received by ePortal and displayed using the corresponding web page. To view this web page, you will need a web presentation project. For this demonstration, a web presentation project is already created for this data source. Let's start debugging the web presentation project. The first page displayed in the browser is the main menu page. From this page, you can navigate to other pages that are listed under Available Services. Similarly, you can add other ePortal presentation projects for the same data source project. This completes the demonstration on importing DPS Form Library. Unisys offers a comprehensive set of ClearPath services to enrich the value of your ClearPath applications, data and systems. Please contact your Unisys representative for more information.